So let's talk about the backstory, the filming, the experience, how it affected you. Um, let's hear it.
Well, thank you, Brother Rick. I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. We shot I Am Israel over 2 months during the fall time, so it was neat. So we were actually there during the fall feasts in Israel. I have to say, first of all, every single aerial shot in the movie, the helicopter shots, every single drone shot that you see, my wife Natalie shot every single one of those things, and they're so good. I don't even know how to work the drone, the remote control, and all that stuff. I've never even done it in my life. So Natalie shot every single thing there. So we filmed for 2 months. The idea was that we would show viewers the beauty of the land, and then we would also introduce them to individual Jewish people living throughout the land. And each one of those people in the movie represents a theme of Israel's rebirth. So the artist represents the rebirth of art and culture. Jonathan, the cowboy in the Golan Heights, he represents the protector of Israel. Because it's interesting, because he was in the IDF. Israel has a great army. It's incredibly powerful. They have not had those numbers in an army since the times of King David. So so just him. His story is part of the rebirth. So everybody has their own theme in the film. So we shot the movie for 2 months, came back, and I cut the movie. My dream, as we were shooting, was we would have a fantastic narrator, somebody who was well known and who could connect with audiences, who would have a great voice. And my dream was to have John Rhys-Davies narrate the movie. So,
and we know his voice, but where do we know his voice from?
So you know his voice from Indiana Jones and the Lord of the Rings series. My favorite movie of all time since I've been a kid is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so John Rhys-Davies plays Sallah in that movie. He plays Indiana Jones' sidekick. So he helps him take the Ark out of that chamber. And he's in the Last Crusade, and he says, "Asps, very dangerous, you go first." So that's John Rhys-Davies, and he plays Gimli, the dwarf in Lord of the Rings. He was my dream to have as the narrator. And I guess God just had his hand on us. I contacted his manager, sent him a good first cut of the movie, and we got connected, and it was a joy to record with Mr. John Rhys-Davies.
No one has a voice like him. It's you know it exactly. You know who it is as soon as you hear it.
It was great. So then, after we had that, locked the movie, and the other big thing that I wanted to do with I Am Israel was have a big, full orchestral score where we would actually record the music with a live orchestra. And so we were able to do that here in Nashville at the best recording studio in Nashville. And Bob Farnsworth is the composer. Now, Bob and I have worked together on my Mount Everest movie and my South Africa movie. He's an incredible, amazing talent. He's one of my best friends. He's a super strong believer, follower of Christ, and he loves to work on these movies. And so Bob scored the movie, and we went in and recorded the orchestra. And the goal was to make this like an IMAX movie, but an IMAX movie that had a strong God backbone to it. I was thinking, if you go to Disney World and you go to Epcot Center and you go to the World Showcase, they have countries all over the World Showcase in Epcot. They don't have an Israel pavilion. So as we were shooting the movie, I was saying, okay, what's the approach? If Epcot in Disney World had an Israel pavilion, and you would go in to that attraction and you would see a movie, this would be the type of movie that I would want to see. This would be the type of movie that would just thrill people. So that was sort of another creative approach as we were making I Am Israel.
How has not just making the movie, but being there in the land, how has it affected you? Meeting the people, hearing the stories, how has it affected you personally?
Brother Rick, that's a good question. Producing I Am Israel has affected my life in a huge way, and it's affected my wife, Natalie's life in a huge way. Before going and setting my feet on the land of Israel, even though I loved the Jewish people and loved the land, it wasn't personal for me. It wasn't something that I thought about a whole lot. And now it's something I think about every day. I think about Israel every single day. And it's neat. We've sort of incorporated parts of Israel into our lives here in Nashville. Take Passover, for instance. It wasn't, I didn't necessarily grow up doing Passover, but now I love Passover now, because it's a way to connect in a tangible way what the experience that our Messiah was going through at the Passover meal before the crucifixion. And so it's something that we do with hundreds and hundreds of other believers here in Nashville. And it's a very moving thing. And I don't know if I really would have understood it so much if I hadn't gone to Israel and spent time amongst the Jewish people.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you were to pick out a favorite part of the movie, what might that be?
The sequence of Yaakov Berg in the vineyards, I believe, is one of the best scenes that I've directed in my entire career. Yaakov is an amazing man, and he says a line in the movie which is actually, I totally agree with, and it's actually my worldview as well. He says that to him, Israel is the greatest proof that God exists and is still acting in our world. And I agree with that. I think creation speaks to the glory of God. But people debate creation, people debate science, and people argue about that all the time. But you really can't argue about Israel. You really can't argue about the Jewish people being exiled and for 2,000 years being away from that land and then coming back, and there being a drought in the land for 1,900 years, and it's starting to rain again in the 1880s when the Jewish people came back, and the life, the land being reborn just in our lifetime. You really can't argue with that, and so I love that sequence. There's one more scene though in the movie with Batya, the Jewish mother, and she talks about part of her routine every week is being able to go out onto the valleys and the mountaintops with her Bible and with her two sons, and she's able to read Bible stories to her children and point and say, so this story about Joseph happened right there, and then they'll go somewhere else. This story about Abraham happened right there. I love that, and it's neat because I think a lot of mothers really connect with that on a gut level, and they say, wow, man, I would love to be able to do that with my children.
Wow. David, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, and for being inspired to create such a fantastic movie on the people and the land of Israel. And that's a good segue, because now I want to present to you how you can pick up your own copy.
I think I'm privileged to have grown up in a land where my grandfather, where his forefathers only dreamed of seeing built one day.
To me, Israel, it's the best proof God exists and still acting in our world.
It says, I will bring you in from the four corners of the earth, and people will know that you are my people and that I am your God.
God says, mountain, shoot forth your branches, give forth your fruit. My children are coming home. Every fruit you see is prophecy fulfilled.
Discover for yourself the miracle of the land and the courageous hearts of the people of Israel.
I am Israel.
This is home, and home is where you want to be.
Visit IamIsraelFilm.com to begin your journey.